University of Johannesburg Center for Sociological Research and Practice has released a report called Energy Racism, the Electricity Crisis in South Africa. The report conducted in Soweto explores the experiences, responses and solutions of members of this community to the energy crisis in South Africa. So what were the main findings? Professor Luke Sinwell, Project Coordinator at the Center for Sociological Research and Practice, joining us now live to unpack this further. Prof, good afternoon and thank you very much for your time. Perhaps can we begin here? Why did you deem it necessary to undertake this research?
Thank you so much for having me. That's a very good place to start a discussion about this. So you'll find in the research, but also even when you look at how it's reported to an extent, we tend to get a top-down vision about the crisis. So we only understand policy prescriptions, the national orientation, and we wanted to look at what is actually happening from below. What are the experiences of ordinary people, especially in townships? And we focus specifically on Soweto and one site, Sun Valley, which had been shut off for 14 months, noting that this energy crisis has been with us for a long time. And we've seen it obviously since 2007, but then also dating back to the first wave of new social movements in South Africa in the early 2000s with the Soweto Electricity Crisis Committee. So there's also a long history of community organization in this community. So we wanted to find out what is actually happening, how are people coping with the problem, and what are they doing in response themselves to what they are faced with. And also noting that load reduction and large-scale or long-term cutoffs are mainly affecting the working class, the Black working class areas. So in fact, what you find and what our research in part demonstrates is that not only is the inability do these residents, a lot of them pensioners, unemployed, have an inability to pay for the electricity, but also that they tend to be, when they do have it, they're the ones that get load reduction. They are targeted actually by Eskom under the guise that they are not paying or that they are the ones that are putting too much pressure on
so that's Eskom. So that's also, that talks to the experience of the, as you say in your press release, of the township folk in terms of the electricity crisis impacting them negatively a lot. But you then situate this by suggesting that it's like a continuity or continuation of oppression, exploitation, misery, and suffering. How so?
It's a continuation because, during apartheid, it took a very long time into the 80s and into the 90s until Black townships finally actually had access to energy. And they were the ones actually who were doing the work in the mines, digging out the coal in order to produce energy. So the continuation is that now communities are actually paying more money. They're paying an increasing amount of money for the energy, and they don't have enough money to do it. So it means that people in Soweto are less able to keep up with payments. They're paying 4 times more than they were a decade ago, and they also do not have a reliable supply of electricity. It's also the situation that during apartheid, corporations were paying significantly less money to produce the profits and the minerals that came from the energy. And today, the same kinds of things are actually being projected. So Eskom special pricing agreements give 2 of the world's biggest mining houses, like Anglo-American, electricity costing 1/10 of the tariffs charged to residential customers. The reason why it intensified
Yes. Sorry, Prof, we don't have a lot of time. Sorry to come in there. But one of the aspects that you said you cover, one of the questions, what solutions are being offered? So in this research, what kind of solutions are coming up that are being offered as the possible way forward to resolve this, what you've called energy racism?
It's a very good point. So the report doesn't quite solve, it's not going to solve the problem, but it does point to the fact that if you continue to make people who live in townships and informal settlements pay more money for electricity and also cut them off frequently, it does mean that you are going to intensify the already crunched financial system that people find themselves in like the COVID experience of unemployment. So it would mean, things like taxing, not charging rates as high to people who are not making as much money and who actually spend a greater proportion on their electricity than middle class and professional people do. Other people are resorting to solar power. Other people you might get here or tonight when we have our launch, you can ask questions about, the just transition. But in terms of immediate responses, the alternative would be to stop load reduction in working class areas because it is crunching already existing problems in households and making it worse for people to live and get by as they need to find things like paraffin where they spend more money, wood.
Okay.
It may sound simplistic, but I think it is a useful way forward in the immediate.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Sinwell, there for those views there. He's the coordinator of the Center for Sociological Research and Practice.